fear don't make us who we are. So I'll dream until I make it real, and all I see is.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Um, I have personally been shocked in my readings when like spirits will talk about Jesus. It really throws me off because I don't know why. Like, of course he's up in heaven. Of course he's helping people with their transitions.
Mhm.
Do you have any like beautiful Jesus stories or anytime Jesus has surprised you? Or a really good question I wanted to ask is like the first time like Jesus came to you, was that like you know, a big thing or I'm putting you on the spot, but
Yeah, I'm just trying to think because I've had I think the first time that I had an experience with Jesus was long before I was with channeling Eric. I did know who Eric was at the time because I was working, like I was practicing with him. And I remember meditating and being given some words. And I can't remember exactly what they are right now, but it was like a phrase of words. And I wrote them down right away. I kind of, got up and I wrote it all down because I didn't want to forget. And then I went to Google and I Googled, and I can feel him right now. I Googled, and it was something to do with fruit in a bush. And it was like, I knew it was something that had to do with the Bible, and that's what came up. And I could hear him speak to me and say, "It's me. This is me." And I could feel his energy. And I remember being very, what's the word for it? Like excited and a little shocked and wondering why he was here. And the moment that I started to question that, I lost connection. Like I didn't have any connection. And I was like, then I would question myself, was that really him? And so I started to research what this phrase was that I got. And all I can remember that it said something along the lines of about my journey, and it had to do with trust in my journey. And that was probably the first experience that I had where I knew he was around. And I'll just preface by saying I kind of went from before my awakening, I had gone through different stages of my connection with Jesus and with God, because
mm-hmm.
I went from kind of, earlier in life feeling that connection to pulling away from it,
Mm-hmm.
and then to kind of finding it again. And then I really found it again when I had my addiction. And I would read the Bible. I was reading the Bible like a tarot card. I would just say, "Show me what I need to see today." And I would open it up to the page and I would read something. And even though I didn't understand a lot of the words that were being said, I would get a message from it. I would feel like it was like I was translating from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would write letters to Jesus, letters to God, and stick it in this Bible. And a lot of them were like letters like asking for like healing, asking to no longer have this addiction, asking, "Please help me get off these pills." I would write letters of promise that I would help other people for the rest of my life if they would help me get off these pills. And so I didn't suffer anymore. And one night I was in withdrawal. And if you've ever been, for anyone listening, if you've ever been in opiate withdrawal or heroin withdrawal, it is one of the most um, grueling experiences, because it's very physically like having the flu, but your whole body, like you can't sit still, you can't sleep, you're throwing up, you can't get comfortable, you can't stay, like it's a terrible experience. And I can remember being in my living room and laying on the floor, and everybody else was in bed, and I was trying to hide it from my kids. I didn't want to show them how sick I was. So I was kept it together as best I could till they had gone to sleep, and I was just going out of my mind and just praying to be okay. And I remember feeling like somebody was standing. I was on the floor, like feet in front of me, was like standing in front of me. And I fell asleep. And that's not something that like I'd been in withdrawal before. I know what it feels like. And I actually slept for a few hours. And
Wow.
that next morning, I was able to get help. And so the fact that I'd had that sleep was like, that was a miracle to me. But I knew there was a visitation. I knew that something had happened in that moment. So, kind of fast forwarding, when I got this message later on, I was, well out of my addiction at that point. And so I was surprised to have him come through. And I think not really understanding what my connection was with him either, because I was really questioning, what is God? Who is Jesus? And one of the first messages I got from God was, I am you and you are me. And I didn't understand, because I thought, okay, I was questioning it, but I didn't understand what that meant. It took me some time to understand it, and what it means. And what was explained to me is that God being the creator, God, source, whatever you want to name it, being the creator of everything, is a very big, expansive energy beyond what our understanding is. And I'm sure it doesn't do it justice to even say the language to it, but we are all fractals of that energy. So God creates itself over and over again and lives in a fractal, which we could say in individual experiences, sometimes into collectives. There's so many different ways that we could look at this, but continues to reinvest itself into these projected experiences to create, to experience. And understanding that made the most sense to me, because that is how I also understood that if God is me and I am God, that means that when I judge myself, or when I believe that I was being judged by God, that's me judging myself. And that when I love myself, that is God loving me. And really understanding that by sabotaging and hating myself, I was hating God, because I'm made up of that same energy that God is. And so accepting myself opened up the gates to a deeper connection with Source, with Jesus. And Jesus is a representation of love. And he comes forward slightly different. I've had different people tell me how they've experienced him. And but the way that I've experienced him has been sometimes very casual, like a hippie. He's come forward like literally with the hair, with jeans and a t-shirt, like very casual. And that's how he, and with a tan, that's how he has looked to me. But I've also seen him with these beautiful blue eyes. Like, I've seen these beautiful blue eyes. I've seen him in a robe. I've seen his feet, like sandals. But a lot of my experiences with him started to grow as I worked with other people as well. So it was like he would come in and deliver a message to somebody, and then he would stick around and deliver me a message.
Oh, wow.
So I would start to have these little, it's almost like a little story, but it was a creating a connection. And just recently, he said to me, oh gosh, this is like maybe a month ago or so. I was really overwhelmed, and just with so much going on, and I felt like I was making mistakes all over the place. I was making mistakes with people's schedule, and I was really frustrated with myself. And he said, sit in the energy of my love and just
Oh,
receive. And it was as simple as that. And so I did. I said, thank you. And I asked him for it, if he could give that to me, and I would sit in it. And it was the most beautiful, peaceful energy. And that's all I did, was I just sat there and just sat in it and received it. And it was like having somebody hit a reset button on me and calm me down and just say, everything is okay. And that was such a strong experience for me. And it was very simple. It was no big conversation, it was no flashing lights or anything else like that. It was just some very simple words, and just close your eyes and sit and receive it. And that, I think, is well, I know is something that we can all do for ourselves by
yeah.
asking for that and allowing that. Um, but I know you've had experiences with him as well.
Yeah. About this time
Recently.
last year,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah, yeah,
um, I um, uh, had a reading with you, and I said, somebody's like making my ear burn. Like, I don't know what it is, but like my ear just every now and then will just like burn. And you were like, oh my gosh, mine's burning too. And you're like, oh, it's a higher being. They're not telling me who it is, but it's a higher being. And I was like, okay. And then I was doing yoga, or I was going to do yoga one day. And like for 3 different times, it wouldn't work. Like the first time it wouldn't turn on, and the second time it wouldn't turn on. And then I finally got it turned on, like reset everything. And then the volume didn't work. And I was like, okay, 3 things have, happened for me to not do yoga. I think I just needed to meditate, because I would always like do yoga, then meditate.
yeah,
And I don't think I had time to do both that day, because I was meeting my mom. So I just meditated, and the burn, and I felt the burning. Oh, that's what it was. I felt the burning. And so I was like, oh, I'll do yoga and then I'll meditate and see who this is. But then I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to do yoga. I think I'm supposed to meditate. And at that point, I was just opening up, and I would get a lot of like validations. The like something I would see after that to like validate that it was real.
mm-hmm.
And so I'm just like, okay, like who's here? And then bam, it's like his image. But it was like it when I picture Jesus, I do not picture him on the cross. I picture him like walking and
Yeah,
healing people,
yeah,
and like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
don't really even like wearing crosses, because like that's
yeah,
how he died, and that's kind
yeah,
of creepy. Like I'm not like a cross
yeah,
person.
yeah,
And like it was him like on the cross, and his arms were really up and his head was really down. And it was like it kind of scared me almost, because it
yeah,
was like, when I do think of him on the cross, I think of him as kind of like this,
yeah,
like I'm looking over at you and like still giving you
yeah,
mercy while I'm on this
yeah,
cross,
yeah,
And so it was like extra like sunken, and like kind of it was like there was like a yellow glow to it. And it just kind of scared me, because two, I was getting just like really quick flashes. Like
mm-hmm.
now I think things are like a little bit more fluid. And that was
Mm-hmm.
when I would like breathe, 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 flash. And
Mm-hmm.
then, and so my heart just like sunk. I was like, oh my God, it's Jesus. And then all of a sudden, because I'm very physical, all of a sudden I felt like the crown of thorns on my head. It felt like, um, this is kind of embarrassing to say, but it felt like I was getting a chemical peel.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
it felt like all tingly,
yeah,
and like,
yeah,
I felt and then I felt like a little like something in my hand,
yeah,
and I was like, oh gosh, like it's really him.
yeah,
And like I'm feeling those, the
yeah,
things. And I said, like, or I don't know if I said, why are you here or what, but I heard anointed. like I saw a few different images that were like related to that day. And then I heard him say like anoint or like anointed or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even know what that word meant. And then I felt like this line down my forehead like that. And afterwards I Googled, what does anointed mean? And it's like something that priests do to like anoint or to bless new priests. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I think he's letting me know that I'm going to be a healer or something. Um, and and then he said that he played the song Blackbird Singing in the Dead of Night by the Beatles.
Yeah.
And my eyes were closed because that's how I do it when I meditate. And then he said, open your eyes. And I felt that by this point, I was really feeling that peace and love that you're talking about. And he said, open your eyes. And I was like, I don't want to open my eyes. Like, I just want to be right here in this moment, you know? And so I opened them, like I took probably 3 deep breaths before I actually opened them. And as soon as I opened them, the phone rang. And I like always wonder, was he telling me to open my eyes because he knew it was over and the phone was ringing, or was he telling me to open my eyes because I was going to see him like in front of me?
Yeah.
And I missed it because I took too long because I didn't, you know.
I feel that he was standing in front of you.
I know, I feel that as well. And so I'm always like, man, I should have opened my eyes sooner. But anyways, yeah. But it was just so weird because I was like, you know, the day I meet Jesus, I thought I'd be dressed up like you get for church, or I'd eat like a steak dinner afterwards, and I'd like tell like there'd be the ceremony, or like there would be grandeur and ritual, and I was in yoga pants.
Yeah.
And like it was just so odd. And then afterwards I was supposed to be meeting my mom at a furniture store to go look at some furniture she wanted to buy. And because this was right before Christmas, they had a whole room of like Christmas decorations, and there was big Jesuses and mangers. And I'm like, the whole time I'm like, I am really having an out of body experience. Like I'm like really sure I was just talking to that little baby, like, you know. And like I would hear like, yes, that's me. Like, yes, you did. And I'm like, oh my God, like I don't know. I don't know what to think right now. And like it was just wild. And so then that was a Sunday. And then that Monday, I was getting my kids' library books in their backpack. And he got this Ripley's Believe It or Not book. And I was like, oh, while I eat my cereal, I'll just like look at it before I put it in his backpack, you know? And the border of each chapter had different pictures from throughout the book. And the border of the book had the image of Jesus that I saw. It was, this is so silly, but somebody created a Jesus on the crucifix with toast. They would scrape off
That's
and it
hilarious.
was like a mosaic of toast put together to make Jesus on the cross. And that was the yellow glow.
That is hilarious. That is so funny. He's quite funny. He's pretty funny.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty funny.
Well, I just figured he was using that picture because that's probably the only picture I would have or run into of him in the near future where I wouldn't be mistaken. And then right below him, or maybe 2 people below him, I don't remember, was one of the Beatles. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. So then that got me thinking, well, I forgot about the Beatles song. What about the Beatles song? So I Google like the spiritual meaning of the Beatles song. And they said, the Wikipedia says it is the exact, like it mirrors exactly a spiritual awakening. In Wikipedia, it says that like the song is about spiritual awakening, and it can be directly metaphorically related to a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And so now whenever I listen to the Blackbird song, I think of Jesus coming to me, and it makes me cry every single time.
I love that song. I love that song. That's one of my favorite songs.
Me too. So anyway, so that was, Yeah. So that was really cool. And then too, like in December, I don't know if they're always out, but I just feel like December there's more like the starling birds that like really like
Yeah. Yeah.
swarm, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So when I was driving to meet my mom at the furniture store, like these starlings, like kind of, but now whenever I see starlings, I think of um, Jesus. And so right after, I told you a story earlier about um, the angel of mercy. I was walking the dog and I was saying, thank you so much, angel of mercy. And all of a sudden it sounded like there was like water running. And I was like, what is that? There were so many starlings that all of their wings sounded like water. They were in the tree. And when I looked up at them, I saw an orb. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, thank you.
Yeah.
Like that was
Yeah.
really, you know,
That's
my
incredible.
answer.
No, I
Yeah.
think, this time of year is very magical, like, and
Mhm.
mystical, I find. This is when, like in our family, we have a lot of spiritual experiences around Christmas, like seeing things, I think I was telling you about my parents' dog that passed, but they had another dog before that dog. And they have his urn downstairs in this case. And my mom and I, this is like, oh gosh, like probably more than 5 years ago, maybe more than that. But anyway, we went downstairs and I was helping her do something. And I just said to her, I think there's like a whole bunch of orbs here, and I said, I can feel spirit here. And so I turned on my phone and it was kind of dark and we were going down there and there was orbs like everywhere, just
Oh,
moving
wow.
all, and like they were multicolored, like pink and green and blue, and she was looking through the lens and seeing them, and you could see them off the lens, but you couldn't see the color off the lens. You could see it through the lens, right? Anyway, this one orb comes right out of the cabinet, right in front of us, and just goes like this. And it was huge. And inside the orb was the dog. And it was actually his picture, because there was a photograph right beside the urn. And it was that photograph, like his face, and came right out in front of us. And my mom saw it clear as day. And that we were both stunned because it was just so. But actually, I had something happen the other day too, but every Christmas season, like my mom's got this angel on her tree, and my grandma passed away right before Christmas. So it was actually the anniversary was 30 years ago this past December the 11th. And every year when my mom's decorating her tree and that we put the angel on, the angel has no flasher in it. Okay, it's just an angel, really pretty angel that sits on top of the tree, and she lights up, and there's no flasher. But we know that my grandma is going to start flashing lights, and my mom does not have flashers in any of her lights. And there'll be a strand of lights that has these little pearls, and just one does a little flash, and then she moves up to the angel up top and starts to flash it. Then it'll stop and it won't happen again. Like that'll be it. And she does it every year. And we've taken apart to see if
Oh,
my
that's
mom's like
beautiful.
looking to see if there's a flash or anything, but we know that it's her. Well, the other day, when I think it was last Sunday, I was walking over to my parents in the morning, and my mom's big Christmas. Like she's like got reindeer outside and candy canes all the way up her walkway, and she just goes all out for Christmas decorations. And so I'm walking up the walkway, and it's in the morning, so the lights aren't on, but it was a little foggy out that morning. And I walk up the steps, and or not the steps, rather, they have a wheelchair ramp. So I'm walking up the ramp, and I get up to the top of the ramp, and all of a sudden, all of the Christmas lights come on around the door, like just completely light up. And I was like, oh, mom must have a sensor or something. Like she must have some kind of solar. Like that's weird. So I come in, and I said to her, I'm like, did you get some kind of sensor on that? And she looks and she's like, that's not supposed to be on. And she goes and checks. Well, the lights just flashed on for me because they're on
Wow.
timers. They're on timers to come on at night. So it just flashed on. And then the angel went on the same day because I was helping my mom put her tree together. So the angel came on the same day. So it's just a lot of those type of things. It's just always been very like my dad would see like relatives and stuff, I remember the Christmas holidays, even being a kid, and he'd talk about seeing somebody walking in the hallway, or a family member having a dream about a family member. It's just always those type of things that have always happened around this time of year. So
we don't get that.
no.
So that's really cool. That was one of the things I was going to ask, is how's Christmas different from you, or for you as a medium? So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to hear everybody's story, like, Christmas miracles, Christmas stories, Jesus stories, the feel-good stories that have happened to you.
Yes.
We'd love to hear that in the comments, because that is what makes this season so magical.
That's right. Absolutely. So we hope that you guys all have a Merry Christmas, and thank you for being with us for this whole entire process this year. And thanks to Maren.
Yes.
Thanks to Maren, the videos are coming up on time now. Yay! Yay, Maren. So, well, Merry Christmas, Maren.
Merry Christmas, Michelle.
Okay. We'll see you guys in the new year. Bye.
Bye.